Hello, 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 and welcome to Sacred Birth Sessions, where we talk about real birth stories and what they don't tell you. So, today we're actually going to be talking about delayed cord clamping and policy versus physiology. And honestly, I like to focus on honoring birth as an actual ceremony than anything else. Um, so, Uh, this is not about bashing medicine in any way, shape, form, or fashion. It's more about understanding birth before the actual intervention. So, I'm going to start off by telling you what happened yesterday. So, my name is Jessica Pierre. If you don't know, I am a birth doula. And what I did yesterday was I went to a doctor's appointment with one of my clients. Um, and the doctor, the OB, came in and he's checking baby's heart rate and everything. And he's asking her, like, hey, do you want to talk about anything when it comes to your birth plan? And I saw her kind of hesitate. And the first thing that came out of his mouth was, hey, um, on your birth plan, normally women ask for delayed cord clamping. So just to let you know, delayed cord clamping at the hospital, they're only going to allow you 30 seconds, and that's it. So for those of you who don't know what delayed cord clamping is once baby's born, the nutrients in blood and red blood cells and everything go from the placenta, which is still be inside of mom, to baby still. That's how baby gets oxygen and nutrients and filters out everything from their system during the 9-10 months that you're pregnant. So what happens is the hospitals usually give you an option to do delayed cord clamping. So instead of clamping the cord and cutting it right away, they allow some of the blood to transfer. And this particular provider said 30 seconds was that's it. So I asked, I'm like, well, at the same particular hospital, I've known them to wait until the cord stops pulsing so that all of the blood and everything gets to baby. And he looked at me and he was like, nope, it's not more than 30, not more than 60 seconds actually. And I'm like, hey, I'm a doula. I go to this hospital quite often. I've also worked at a birth center where I've attended home births and birth center births. And I've never heard of anybody not allowing moms to wait past that 30 to 60 seconds mark. And he's like, yeah, because if we let it go too long, more red blood cells will transfer to baby and it's bad for baby's brain, and the bilirubin levels will increase, and baby will have a higher chance of being jaundiced. So at that point in time, I was literally biting my tongue because I'm like, I have never, ever heard anything like that a day in my life. And I've been a doula, what is it, almost 8 years? I've never, ever, ever heard anything like that, ever. And then again, he's telling us, hey, this is what's going to take place at the hospital. They're not going to allow you to do this. I'm just like, I am there all the time and they do. But me being a doula, I'm kind of in the corner. I'm not trying to cause any issues, no confrontation or anything. However, in this instance, I made sure to wait till the provider left, and I had that conversation with my client. I'm like, I've never heard that a day in my life. So, and this particular client, if you've been following me for a while, I posted a video of me crying last April because I assisted a family who gave birth to a stillborn at about 21, 22 weeks. This is that particular client. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, she's already been through so much drama before. Why continue to place fear into her, you know? So it's just so much that these doctors talk about. Like I said, I'm at the hospital all the time. I've seen delayed cord clamping. I know of lotus births, which basically means you leave the placenta. Once the placenta is delivered, you leave it attached to baby until it dries up and falls off, At the end of the day, physiologically, the cord is a baby's lifeline, So if the cord was providing life, bringing blood back and forth, as baby is growing internally, how does that translate into danger once baby comes out, So these are things that he just kept repeating the same statistics over and over and over again. And then he threw in there, oh yeah, you can ask ChatGPT, talk to ChatGPT. ChatGPT will bring up resources and you can click on them and this, that, and the third. And I'm just like, is this what our medical field has come to? Going through ChatGPT to get answers. So delayed cord clamping at the end of the day is not something extra. This is something that should actually take place to make sure that baby gets all of the nutrients, all of the blood cells and everything to make sure that's theirs, It's part of the process. And then if baby happens to turn out to be jaundice, monitoring is what it's about. Like, jaundice is not an emergency. It is something that they can monitor. Doctors send babies home with jaundice all the time. And they tell them, hey, let's just go ahead and put baby in front of the sun for a few minutes, a couple times a day. So what I also like to focus on before all of these medical interventions, before hospitals even existed, what did we do before then? We had granny midwives, who were in villages or whatnot, and women came together to be there for a mom giving birth. There were no interventions, there were no clocks, there was no stopwatches, there was no, hey, let's get you in, get you out. So to find a place that would embrace that would be great, especially if that is your choice. You want delayed cord clamping and you want things like that. Please make sure to talk to your provider and see what their thought process is on that, because I think at this point it's that particular provider, not the hospital proper policy. And if you don't know the questions to ask to get that, you might just think that that's just overall what is allowed in general. Let me see, I got some things. Hey, I getting some comments here. Aloha. All right, so let's talk about advocacy. So again, as a doula, I am here to not only teach you childbirth education, but also how to advocate for yourself. In situations like this, there are providers that do plant seeds of doubt, and they plant it early in the game so that when you get to the point of labor and delivery, they you're like, okay, well, I'm trusting this doctor to make these decisions for me. And that's not always the best choice. Parents and support people, they don't need to fight to get their point across. It's all about preparation and the actual language. Have your support team, again, hire a doula. Do your research. Yes, there's tons of information on social media, TikTok especially, but you also have to use your intuition, because there's so much information out there and not everything is true. So definitely utilize your intuition on that. But yeah, so it's just yesterday, 2 days ago, I decided to restart my podcast. And I'm like, what am I going to talk about? Like, I have so many, like, where do I start? I have so much information. But I experienced this yesterday with my client, and it made me so upset to be in that room and have to just sit there and listen to what this provider has to say. Now, I want to make sure and state this. I don't have a problem with medical staff. I don't have a problem with male medical staff. in general, but the experiences I have personally have has made me think about things differently. Me personally, I wouldn't want a male provider. There's some male providers that are absolutely amazing, but my personal experience when I was pregnant, and then some of the male providers that I've experienced when going to appointments with clients, whether it's at the hospital or at the actual office, the doctor's office, I've seen and picked up on certain things. Another thing I would suggest when you have a provider is to do your research on them particularly. You can go to your practice website, the office that you go to, and you can read their background. This particular provider had like a military background, and he also had a medical background, and military programming, for a lack of better terms, and medical training, they have a certain way of doing things and saying things and rebuttaling, and that made it make sense for me after the fact, because I looked up the doctor after the fact, and just personal background sometimes plays a lot with how providers interact with their clients. But again, learning how to ask the right questions, and having a support around you, and learning how to advocate for yourself is key with all of this. So that is actually why I created a free 5 questions to ask your provider guide. So if you are on my Instagram, I believe it is my Instagram bio, there is a link in my bio that you can go ahead and download the 5 questions to ask your provider. So if you are pregnant, or if you know of somebody who's trying to get pregnant, planning on getting pregnant, or recently found out that they are pregnant, please go ahead and check out the link in my bio. That's going to start you off with 5 questions. There's so much more than these particular 5 questions, but that's a good place to start. Some sample questions that you could ask is this policy, or is this preference? Is this hospital policy, or is this provider preference? Because sometimes they don't always mean the same thing. Another question you can ask is, what happens if we wait till the pulsing stops, as far as delayed cord clamping? What's the benefits? What's the risks? There's so much that goes into it, instead of just taking their word for it. And then you can even ask, like, how is my baby monitored if we delay it longer than the 30 or to 60 seconds? So all in all, just want to kind of bring it back. Birth is not a medical experience. And that's a lot of the time how it's portrayed on TV and in the hospitals, and just kind of overall in general in society. But it's not a medical experience. Medicine can support birth, but it should not necessarily be like the first go-to. Birth is a ceremony. Birth is not only you just giving birth to your child, but it's also a rebirth of the mom. It's so much deeper than that. I tell people all the time, when I go to births, I'm so tired afterwards. And it's not just because of physical work, but it's mental, physical, emotional, and spiritually taxing on your body. So, just think of birth a little bit deeper. I say all of that to say thank you so much for being a part of this podcast episode. I'm trying my hardest to maintain consistency. If you have topics that you would like me to talk about, please feel free to drop them in the chat, send me a DM. I want to make sure to put out the most relevant information for you guys, whether you are, like I said, you're pregnant, postpartum, you're planning on having a baby, somebody who's going through the process of pregnancy. So just keep that in mind. I am here. I am so ready to have these conversations with you guys. So one other thing that I want to mention, I am also doing a masterclass, which is going to be called Birth Beyond the Plan. That is going to be held January 27th. I believe that's a Tuesday, January 27th. at 7 p.m. And you can go to sacredbirthblueprint.com to register for that if you're interested. It is free. We're going to talk about, birth, and how to advocate for yourself. So masterclass is super important. Like I said, it is free. Send the link to somebody that you think needs it. Share it on your story, or repost if anything. But again, I would like to thank you so much for being a part of the Sacred Birth Sessions. And remember that knowledge doesn't remove the uncertainty. It restores the authority that you need during that time. So again, thank you so much and have a great night. Bye, guys.